mysteriously fired. I don't know what I did. I just literally got a phone call, and no one said anything while I was at work. I was just doing my job, minding my business, and they go, "Well, we're gonna let you go because you don't fit." I'm like, "Oh, wait, what?" Like, it was the weirdest thing ever. Like, it wasn't like I had a warning or anything prior. I just like got a call. It's like, "Hey, you're done," and okay. So, I said, "Okay, well, I've been freelancing. I'm doing okay with that. Let's start let's taking it to the next level." And then last week too, last weekend, like towards the end of last week, it's like I looked at my numbers for the listenership for the audio. It was nearly at 1,000 downloads. Like I was at like 850 plays downloads, like for the week last week, which is like that's huge number. Like it's not like the biggest, but it's certainly not small, right? So.
Well, when you're starting out, I mean, even when you're just a handful of years into doing anything creative, a win is a win. And if you're happy with how it's going, then that's all that matters, know?
I remember when I started doing the podcast, it was like 8 people listening to it in a week. And so you go from 8 to 800, it's like, that's not small.
Right. Yep.
Right. It's cool. So I'm like, well, okay, I might as well see if I can get myself some sponsorships because that's a big enough audience for like common people with Kickstarters, book launches, things like that. And I mean, I'm freelancing too, so it's like, all in all, it just seems like, okay, let's just let's take this to the next level. And and make some suggestions about where I want to be, where I want to stay. And it's just like I want to get out kind of where I'm living now because it's like I don't think I'm going to stay here for too much longer. So I need to kind of prep and do it. And I'm trying to figure out this creative freelancing business thing and try to get that all squared away and just do that. And so it feels like I'm in this weird transition where a door has closed and I'm not sure where it's going to open next. And I'm just trying to do everything I can. Does that make sense?
I mean, a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I used to be in a band, which I talk about quite a bit. And then I did like a little movie review page before I started doing the books and comics. And I mean, it was kind of the same thing, one door shuts and then you're like, well, maybe I'll try this. And then the movie review thing was really so I could practice like writing and stuff. And once I got more comfortable with that, and then I started actually writing books and comics. Hello to the 2 people over there.
Yeah.
That
Well, Doris Labors of Love says hello to the 2 Joshes because this is a double Josh episode. 620 is not just one Josh, 2 Joshes.
You can never go wrong with that.
Yeah.
One of my best friends growing up is also Josh. They used to call us Josh Squared, like back in high school.
Oh, geez. Kind of clever. No, like it's just part of the process. I think what happens is you keep going further and further down your road. You just recognize the fact that you can't do some of the same. Like that was the thing for me. It's like I can't go down this road anymore because that road, like I did nothing wrong as far as I know.
Right.
I still got let go.
Did you even like that job or?
No. I didn't really care for it, but it was just how sudden it was. Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't like. I knew my time was going to be limited, kind of sort. I had a hunch it was going to be limited, but it was like I figured I'd get to the end of this week because they're going to go on another layoff anyway at the end of this week. So I figured maybe they'll keep me for the 2 weeks, right? Nope, 3 days, done. It's like whoa, right? So sometimes it just hits you like that, and you're like, okay, now I'm uncomfortable. Now I got to kind of see what I can do, and that discomfort's not entirely a bad thing, right? Like you gotta treat it for what it is. It's just like okay. This isn't working out. Let's figure it out and try something different, right? And there's not another sign to try something different. It's that, right?
There's a lot of times I think when you look back over the years of your life, I know for me and probably for a lot of people, the bad things that happen often end up being the good things that happen to you. Mm-hmm. I got fired from a job years and years ago. I had been there for 5 years and it was a pizza delivery thing. And I got sick with some kind of flu or something, but I still went. And I went for 3 days with a fever, still went, showed up for all my shifts.
Oh, geez.
And the 3rd day I was working like a split. And I told the manager, I was like, I don't know if I should come in tonight. And she was like, well, just come in for a little bit and we'll get you out. And I was like, all right, fine. So
Oh.
I came in and I was like pouring sweat, and like people were like, they sounded like the Peanuts adults. They were like, womp, 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 womp. So I told the one manager, I was like, dude, I gotta go. And he was like, okay. So I left. The next day I was fired for like walking out. And I was like, wow, 5 years, I barely ever missed a day, and this is how I get treated. But uh, after that, I'd never collected unemployment, but I was pissed at them. So I was like, well, I'm going to get unemployment off them. And so I went to college, and now like I got my degree, and now I have a day job that is able to support me. Like I'm a single parent, support myself and my kid with that. And then I can also do my comics and books on the side. So, that was a bad thing. I was really pissed about it at the time. But it turned out for the best. So, sometimes that's the best thing for you. You
Well,
need a push.
actually, it almost going back to what you said at the beginning. It almost always is the best. Sometimes the bad, yeah, because the bad things force you to change. That's
Right.
the thing, right? And sometimes like I was working towards those changes, but it's like that's not quick enough. So basically, it's the universe going, doors up. Okay, your time's up. Time to do something else. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, that's all there is to it. It's not like it's not good. It's not bad. It is what it is, and you have to be an adult about it. Like I'm fortunate in the sense that I don't really have anything to rely on. I can literally go anywhere with a suitcase. That's literally where I'm at this point in my life, and that's what I'm gonna do. Right? I'm going to I'm going to take my creativity and I'm going to turn it into a living because that's what I really want to do. And anything else, I think ultimately might have been the distraction for that. I don't know if I get to achieve all my goals the way I want to before the year is out, but I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah. I mean, you got to risk it to get the biscuit, as they say.
as they say, yeah.
I mean, being creative and all that is. I was actually just thinking about it a little bit ago. I was watching cartoons with my kid, and I was like, man, it's such a hard thing to do this, and I know only a handful of people that this is their job, and they've been doing it for, 10, 15 years, longer than, some of them longer than that. Now, as far as what they make per year, is it enough to sustain and be happy and live a comfortable life? There's a trade-off, because working for yourself is fantastic. You're the only one you answer to. You might make a little less money, doing this, but for me, if I can get, I'm not going to say what I make, but if I could get the comics and stuff just to get me where I am now, I would do it for the rest of my life. 100%. I'd be totally fine with
No, totally. It's possible. Like I'm just gonna say this. Like when before I took this job, I was supposed to start the job a few weeks earlier than that, and it turned out there was a layoff. Right? There was another there was automotive industry, chip shortage, that kind of thing.
it. Mm-hmm.
So the first week I freelanced, I actually made a living wage with my creativity.
That's awesome.
Well, not only that, it was the most money I've ever made in a week. Period. Right. So it is possible. There's one it is totally possible to do it, and that's kind of like I think the thing that I think that has to be creatives have to make some decisions, and I think to really you have to treat yourself like a business, and that's
Yes.
kind of the thing. Like you have to be the business in the business of being a business, and not just a professional, not just a profession, not just creating for the fun. You're a professional. You show up. You're doing this. I think one of the hardest things I had to learn early on is like I'm doing some stuff like trying to get sponsorships, trying to get like my foot in the door editing comics because I think I'd be good at that. And you do some of that stuff just to get your foot in the door. But basically, what I'm trying to do is get to the point and say, okay, hey, listen, I'm worth my time and effort, and this is the thing. And once I get started with this, you can't work for free. I think that's one of the hardest things for a lot of artists to actually think about is
Right.
you get yourself like something I learned very, very early on was people respect a price tag. It's just the world is built on if you look at what kind of movie gets made, the movie that almost always gets made is the one that has the most money put into it. And the reason that is the case is because there's an expectation with that money. It's like, if I'm putting this much money in it, I am expecting it to get made. I'm expecting it to do well. And it's true in any business. It doesn't matter what it is, not just creative, but any. The more money a company puts into something, the more they have an expectation of a result from the money they're putting into it. That's just the way it is, period. And
there's a saying, hopefully I don't mess it up. I forget who said it, but it's a pretty good one though. I think about it all the time. It's easy to turn $1 million in, or what is it, 100 million? It's easy to turn 10 million into. It's easy to turn 100 million into 110 million. It's hard to turn $100 into $110.
yes,
something like that.
it's accurate. It's accurate, right? Like, the business of making money. Like, again, it's true. It's any business, good, bad, or indifferent. It's true in the medical industry. It's true in the automotive. It's true in creative. The more money something's put into something, the more expectation that's either going to make money or there's going to be a very specified result expected. That's the truth. So, as a freelancer, someone being a creative, that's a big factor in your price point. You can't be so low that no one respects your efforts.
Right.
You can't be so high you price yourself out of the market. You have to find that nice middle ground where people are going to respect the work you're doing, right? But not overprice yourself out of the market. Keeping in mind that the more money you make on a project, the more likely, ironically enough, you're going to be respected for the job you do. It's a really tricky balance.
It's kind of what I do with like my books and comics are. Obviously my comics aren't priced like Marvel. I think Marvel is like what, $3.99 a comic or something like that. Yep. I've got mine at $5.
Yep.
Okay, and that's respectable, I think, for an indie. I've seen other indies and they place their books a lot higher than that, 10, 15, even up, which is fine. If you can sell your books at that, that's great. I'm more of the thinking that I would rather sell 100 copies and make $100 than sell 20 copies and make 30 or $40 or whatever it is. So I would rather sell more and make less, if that makes sense, because you get the people, you make more fans that way. Right now in my career, it's about reaching as many people as I can, and I'll get them down the line when somebody buys my thing for a movie. Then I'll make the big pop,
So comics are an interesting animal that way. Like, if you really sit there and think about it, they're an interesting animal, because if you really sit there at the work and effort,
mm-hmm.
if you really sit there and think about it, $15 is a reasonable price for a comic.
It
actually is. It actually is.
If people knew what all went into making a comic book, 100%.
The thing is, though, and it's kind of a catch-22, right? Is comics, more than almost any other medium, has a history of being, like, back in the day when I don't know if you're old enough to remember the newsstand comics. I am old enough to remember when they were on the newsstands. They were printed cheap paper, cheap quality paper. They were just easy to print, easy to distribute, easy to ship. And manga, is a big industry. Pretty much the same thing. You're like, you pay $20 you can pay $20 for a book of manga, but you're getting like 200 pages. Right. So it's not like you're not getting an investment with what you're doing. So you got like this really weird dichotomy. You got this really real dichotomy with manga and things like that. So you're in this strange boat of comics historically have been printed cheap and have sold cheap. Now that we're kind of in an age where production values have gone way up, the price point for a comic is in a weird like flux, because if your book's like, say, 20, I'm going to say 30 pages altogether, just based on the fact.
That's right?
Yeah, about 30 pages, right? So you don't have the ads. You don't have the ad space.
Nope.
So you're not getting subsidized that way. So you're kind of in that strange boat of, okay, what will the market bear? Now, from a purely business standpoint, I think probably you could go to $10 and people would understand. and I think you'd be fine. But when you get to $15, $20, that's for 30 pages.
Right.
That
Yep.
it's such a tricky thing, especially when you look at it like a graphic, like a trade paperback, like a big paper for like 100 pages. 100 pages for $20 is essentially 20 cents a page, and you know,
Even just to get that printed. I mean, I've never printed a book that thick, like a comic. You know, I have my books are. I'm trying to remember how many pages the newest one was. Through over 300, I think. And yeah, I had to sell it for 15 because the printer I've gone through just over the last like year and a half, they keep like twice now they've raised their rates. I'm actually half thinking about switching printers because 30 cents isn't a lot, but it is kind of.
it adds up, right?
Yeah.
It adds up, especially if you're doing mass print runs. It can really add up.
Well,
But you get again. It's like comics, books. Books being around the $15-$20 mark is almost an expectation today. It's not that. I think the book industry is a different thing, but comics, that's tricky.
yeah, people still want them for $4 or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, that one's a harder one to gauge, right? That one's a harder one to gauge. I do think comic book creators kind of miss some opportunities to generate, like, you're in the Kickstarter era.
Mm-hmm.
It would actually make sense if a bunch of you actually kind of got together and like did ads in your books to support each other, because even though you're different campaigns, right? It's just the fact of the matter is you got people who are like-minded people trying to achieve some of the same things, right? You'd have like that would be a really cool, and especially some of the more successful Kickstarter runs, right? Try and get your name in some of those books. People will be aware you exist, which is, I think, again, there's an advertising revenue angle there. Fair enough, Doris. Yeah.
I'm not sure what she means exactly by that.
The mailing rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Can you clarify that for him? But yeah, like it's one of those things. Like I look at that and I think to myself, like one of the big things is Kickstarter is such a unique entity because it's all about customer relations. When you sit there and think about like Kickstarter, you have a relationship with your audience, and you're just pushing, and that's all you're doing is you're fulfilling that relationship. They're supporting you, and in turn, you're offering great content product, right? But it's one of those things where you're looking at it, it's like for points of creating noise and working together and trying to create a brand, right? There's a whole bunch of you creating your own books individually, and if you all work together, you almost would cross pollinate your audiences. Maybe, I don't know. It just seems like something that I feel like I'm surprised it's not done more of.
Yeah, I mean, I know I definitely try to. If some of my friends have a Kickstarter going, I will share it if I can. I try to back it if I can. I don't always have fun sitting around, but
trying to create your own stuff, you tend not to have money at times.
Yeah, it gets a little pricey, and that's what people don't understand. Like the book I've got on Kickstarter right now, we're up to like $544, which is great. That's a nice little chunk. But the book overall, after printing, it's going to be like $4,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, 500 really doesn't cut. I mean, it helps. It helps. Everything helps. Every dollar helps at this point. But like I said a little while ago, I want to get this to where this could be my job, and if I could just get even with what I'm making at my current job, I would quit that job and just do this.
Absolutely. I mean,
so it's all money kind of.
Because working in the real world sucks. Yeah. Exactly. Because I've been printing my books as ebooks for the last couple of years, and again, I'm trying to get to the point again myself where I'm making enough money creatively as a creator, and it's possible. Like I said, I got a living wage for 1 week, and I've definitely done that a couple times. So it's like it's not impossible, just timing and everything like that to make it work. But yeah, you print ebooks, you just get content out there and encourage people to check it out, buy it, and among other things, and just and hope people give it the opportunity it needs, um, but also it's also looking at your work and kind of seeing how else you can sell it. Like, for example, yeah, your comic's awesome, but maybe your video game, maybe your movie, maybe your television show, or maybe like we are in like what most creators, again, the other part of it is, if you look at how a publisher makes money, it's not just one sale, it's many sales, it's the
Right.
rights across the world, it's doing reprints across the world, there's a constant stream of what they call business to business with each other, and you're creating intellectual property. So what you need to look at is, okay, so I got this great book, but what else can I do with it? Can I make a game out of it? Can I make that, like, because the more different ways you sell the book, that's more paychecks for one property,
Right.
right? Instead of creating something brand new each and every time, you're creating one great thing, and you can do a whole bunch of things with it. Next thing you know, listen, man, I gotta tell you, when every day you get a check, and I've done that, when every day you actually get a check, it's glorious. It's
Yeah.
absolutely glorious.
I
It
get
really is.
little checks every now and again in the mail, and it's like, sweet.
Yes.
Extra money. So
So no, like again, that week I did the living wage. I had a paycheck every day. One check, two check, three check. It's like, yeah, right.
nice.
When every day is a payday, it's a beautiful thing. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I'm anymore because I just bought a house and stuff, and I've been fixing it up and everything. And like, it seems like every day. What was it today? Today, I think today was the first day I didn't stop anywhere and have to buy something, and I was like, sweet, I didn't spend money today. It's like super awesome. That's a win.
No, it is. So you just got so bigger house, like better house kind of deal.
Yeah. It was. I mean, unfortunately, the comics didn't pay for that. My real job paid for that, but maybe one day the comics will pay for it. Uh, Yeah, I mean, it was time to move. Like, I collect like vintage toys and comics, so I was kind of running out of space for like legitimately. And my kid, he's getting bigger and stuff too. And
How's your kid?
he's almost 7, so he's about 6
Oh,
months.
so he's old enough to get into some of the same things Dad does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He loves all that stuff too. And unfortunately, I have a rule too. Like, when I go to a Comic-Con, if I buy something for myself, like, I have to buy something for him because I feel like it's only fair. So I've been doing, cons again the last several weeks. Actually, this month block, I did 2 cons. I had last weekend off, and then this weekend I've got free comic book day. So 3 appearances in a month is quite a bit. So I'm pretty tired already.
That would make you tired. That would make you very tired, right? It's like,
Yeah,
but it's a great feeling to be able to do that again.
it is, but
I'm in Canada. I don't know when we're gonna get to do that again. Really, like, again, not to wish into existence, but they're talking about shutting us all down, like at least up here, right?
Yeah, we're getting close to that. I bet. I think people are fighting back against it, but I think we're getting kind of close to that.
It's gonna be interesting what happens down there, because there are some states I don't see it happening. Like, for sure, I don't see it happening. Like Texas,
no.
Florida, nope.
Florida,
right? And there's going to be other states too this time are going to join them, because this is because, again, there's a flip. Like again, I'm not advocating people going out and dying of sickness either, but you guys are in a weird situation where it's like people got to eat, and you don't have a system down there that really supports it.
Nope, we sure don't.
And so I can I don't know if you fully shut down again. I do think you'll definitely do different things. I think every state's going to be a little bit different, but do I see a full lockdown ever happening again in the States? I don't. Really don't.
Probably not like how it went down, I bet.
Yeah. But we won't talk about it too much, because we don't want to wish anything into existence at this point.
Right. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and then somebody send me a nasty email saying, "Oh, you commie," or
well, it's funny. Like, I remember when this all started way back in March. Like, literally 2 weeks before we shut down, I was interviewing a video game play thing, right? And COVID wasn't considered like a serious thing still. Like, people were still kind of laughing it off. And there's I listened to that interview. That joke does not age well, not even a little bit, right? But
It was,
again, it's one of those things where just like we become so desensitized to some of the horrible things we hear in the news, and we don't notice it until we're like it's upon us. You know what I mean? And that's just the way it is. I think we desensitize ourselves to everything. If
yeah,
that.
it was definitely weird. Right before everything shut down, I was at Wizard World in Cleveland. That was the last con I did, and I mean it was an okay con. I did all right, but it felt weird. You could tell everybody was kind of like, should we be here? Like, should we be doing this? And then like the next week, everything shut down, and I work in the medical industry, and I travel around and fix medical equipment, so I worked the whole time. But I was legitimately driving through downtown Cleveland like 2 weeks later, and it was like 8:30, 9 a.m. somewhere around there, and it was me and maybe like five other cars. It was the weirdest thing. It was
Oh
like
yeah, no, it was
a horror movie or whatever.
for me. It was Vancouver. I was living so Vancouver is always it's a big enough city that it has like you know what I'm talking about, like a big enough city where it has its own character to it.
Right. I hear it's a
So
nice city.
yeah, oh, it's a beautiful city. Like I enjoyed my time there for the most part. It was a little weird in some ways. I don't know if I'd live there again, but I definitely enjoyed my time there. Except for the last couple of weeks I was there because it did like when COVID started doing like the shutdown stuff every day because I had to take a bus and two trains to go to work every day. So I would literally watch the city slowly shut down. I was leaving earlier every day to get to work, and I was coming in later every day too because it's just the way it was. Like the world had gone mad and crazy, and I remember the last couple days I was down because I had to get it out at downtown Vancouver. There used to be homeless, like you see, like the homeless people walking down the street, the whole character. By the time I left Vancouver, it was empty. Like all of it was just empty and strange and weird, and everybody didn't know what to do, and it was one of those really, really, really scary like moments where it was like, I think what's gonna happen, right? And I don't even go back to that, but I at the same token, it's like we're still in a really weird time. And I think it's going to be interesting to see some of the decisions we make going forward, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, I mean, you guys are, I don't know all the differences, but it seems like you guys got hit pretty hard though, didn't you? Like it seems like you guys are supposed to be kind of set up a little better, but I've seen stories that say Canada got hit kind of harder.
so this is the thing about Canada. So in terms of did we do more for the average person?
I guess I should turn my hat around since you're in Canada.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No, whatever.
I don't know if you can read it.
It did. How to answer this? So this is the thing. In Canada, when we started, well, let's be honest. Considering how you guys were doing at the initial parts of the pandemic, there isn't really. Brazil is the only country that like was worse than you guys for a while there, and yeah. But the thing about Canada is this, like we still got some problems that like there's some glaring holes in our own infrastructure. What where we had the most losses were people in old folks' homes. And it makes sense if you sit there and think about why that happened. We don't fund and take care of them anywhere as well as we should. Those places. So those places got hit exceptionally hard. My grandmother, I'm in her house right now. She's living with her boyfriend. Like the fact that they're like not in an old folks' home is the part that actually fills me with the most relief because even now I'm not sure that would be a good or safe thing.
Right.
The other flip side to it is we are so dispersed and wide and so far. We are actually know how to put this. Canada as a country, in terms of how it cares for its people, accepts a lot of mediocrity. And what I mean by that is we kind of play the middle. Like we won't be the most we'll take care of our people, but maybe not as well as say Japan or somewhere else. But we'll take care of better than the States. We're right literally in the middle.
Okay.
So sometimes what we do is really good. Sometimes what we do is really bad. we're a country that by and large is very much kind of afraid to take, like, again, just we don't take stands on things very much. We're very, very passive as a country, and it shows in how we make our decisions and things of that nature as well. Um, that all said, so the early part we did better than you. The later part you did better. You guys were way more organized in terms of you guys had a vaccine rollout. Man, it was fast, right? Whether it works or not, that remains to be seen. But I mean,
Right.
in terms of, um, you guys were really efficient when you finally said, okay, we're gonna deal with this because you have the infrastructure in, like, you have places that can make things exceptionally quickly. You can do things that would make things more efficient because again, you have the infrastructure for that, and that's impressive. When you guys choose to use it, it's incredible, right? When you don't choose to use it, good lord, right?
Right.
But I mean, that's the thing. So we got hit. We're in some ways we're lighter, in some ways we're harder. There was a point during the pandemic where I couldn't buy underwear, like legit. I couldn't buy underwear. That was strange. That was very strange.
I'm,
And
I'm having problems finding Gatorade Zero. This is the thing I'm having problems with.
yeah,
Probably
yeah, yeah. Well,
all out of Gatorade Zero forever now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like, okay, short supply is one thing. We had underwear, we just couldn't buy it for like where I was. We had the stuff, we just couldn't buy it. It was like I said, we've had some weird, strange shit up here. So I joked about that for a little bit too. It's like I couldn't actually buy underwear or socks up here for a long time, for like 3 months. It was weird.
Did you guys have a run on toilet paper? Like you couldn't get toilet
Oh
paper?
no, the whole world had that. I remember I was in Vancouver for like the last week I was in Vancouver. I happened to find I knew of a lot of cool, like, the little hidden, like, knickknack places. One of those I was able to get toilet paper before it was completely gone. I needed it. I don't need that much because it's just me,
Right.
but it's like I needed something, and so I got something. And watching the run on toilet paper, I think that will be like that's the weirdest part, like, of this whole apocalypse. And like, don't get me wrong, like in terms of like a black market deal, like, let me tell you something. If you've been dirt poor, you know this. Toilet paper and hot water are the shit, man. They totally are. But um yeah, they're luxuries. They're not like the absolute, like, I will for the life of me never understand that weird apocalypse of toilet paper
Yeah.
run on.
Yeah, I made some bad decisions when I was younger. So I come from a very middle class family. I never went without, but after I moved out, I was very irresponsible. Like I didn't get into drugs or addicted to anything, but I just wanted to be drinking with my buddies and didn't care about paying bills. And I went an entire winter without heat in my apartment, and that really sucked. So that was quite the lesson I learned. It was definitely a that sucked. I think for like 2 or 3 months I've survived on like $2 or $3 a day. Like I would get like 2 35-cent frozen pot pies, a 2 liter, which was $1 at the time, and like $1 bag of chips.
Mm-hmm.
And that was every day for like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah. Oh no,
Every day.
you can. I remember. So I lived in the states in Arizona, and this is why these top teeth are fake. These teeth are fake on top here because I slowly starved. But I learned the art form of taking $30 and lasting a week with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a skill. It's a shitty skill, but
Yeah,
it's a skill.
it's not super fun, but you can do it if you're smart about it. If you really tighten your
Yeah.
straps and
Oh no, you can do it. Like it is totally. It's not fun. It's
nope.
not. It's not. But I mean, these are useful skills to have. Not a lot of people know how to do that, right? But I mean, the truth of the matter is, like, when you really sit there and when you go through those things, there's very little you actually need. Very little.
Right.
But you don't want to go through that if you can help it. I mean, because it's not fun. It's just not fun.
Yeah, I
But
know. I finally did get a job, like got off my ass and went and found one finally. And once I did that, I was like, all right, I'm not doing that again. That was really stupid. So,
it's
but you,
understand.
you
It's
live, you learn.
understandable.
I wouldn't change it because I'm better off for it for
Oh
being.
yeah. like having those experiences hard like gives you a certain degree of heart like drive. Like you just know
Mhm.
what the bottom looks like and say, I gotta get my ass. I have to, or else I'm not getting anything done. Um, sometimes you put yourself so like we were talking earlier at the very beginning what was going on. Like this is the first like this is probably the first time I've deliberately made myself this uncomfortable. Right. Right. It's not this was a choice. And I think like we were talking about this, like we're quietly talking about the whole point of discomfort and weird and how pressure creates change is ultimately what we're talking about here. It's like this pressure creates a change. To what? Sometimes who can say, but it does create a certain degree of change. And I think sometimes putting yourself in those uncomfortable places is a great thing because you learn things about yourself you otherwise never would.
You know, you find out who you are and what you're capable of, you know,
Yeah,
when you have no choice but to do so.
yeah.
You know, I've given thought to like quitting my job and doing this full time, but it's like, that's not a good idea.
Well, you're in a slightly different position than I am. You have
Yeah.
a kid, and you gotta
Yeah.
make sure he's taken care of. That
Yep.
doesn't mean you don't do your things, but you have to go a little slower because it's like it ain't just about you; it's about him,
Right. Yep.
right? So it's like I'll put up like if it was just you, you probably would have just said fuck it, like you would have just said like you know what, I'll figure this out. But
Yep.
because you got to make sure he's fed, and then by the way, that's not a bad thing at all, right? But you got to make sure he's fed. So you're like, okay, you know what? I'll do this slowly. I'll make sure he's taken care of because that's my job. That's my real job. It's not your day job. That's your real job. It's
Right.
I'm making sure that my 7-year-old is got food in his belly, and I have to buy silly things for him, and then I can go get my own silly stuff because we're both 12 years old at heart.
Right.
Has he been the adult in your relationship at all, in any at any point so far yet?
Uh, no, not yet. He's not quite there.
Not quite there, but it's
No.
coming. I'm sure. I'm sure it's
No.
coming.
Every now and then he'll say something that's kind of surprising, but usually he's like, "We should go look at toys," and I'm like, "No, not today. We can't even go look. We're not even allowed to go look because I will buy something if like I don't. If I have an addiction, it's probably like buying shit I don't need. Probably.
Well, we all do it,
Yeah.
but it's what we buy, right? Like
Yeah.
for me, it's books, right? I love me so. My current read, I'll show you here, like book wise, is Children of Red Peak by my buddy. He's a friend of mine, Craig DeLuey. Right, he's actually a friend of mine. Good dude, and I love his stuff. Right, I don't need a book. I got plenty to read,
Right.
but I can't help myself. It's like my candy.
I think a lot of book people are like that. It seems like
Yeah.
they always say, "Oh, I got 25 books sitting that I haven't even touched yet," and it's I'm kind of the same. I mean, I have comics I've never even picked up yet, but it just is what it is. You got to find time to get things done, and
Well, it's like I said, it's a little healthy too. Like this isn't just about like life isn't just about getting by. Like if
right,
it was just about getting by, man. I again, I'd be flipping burgers right now because I wouldn't give a shit. I'm not, that's enough to get by. It's not a glamorous job, but it's enough to get by, right? And it's not just about that. It's about like finding little joys. For me, it's comics. For me, it's books, and occasionally music, right? And video games because I'm still secretly 12 years old too,
right.
right? And right, everybody's got that. Everybody's got that inner like I gotta do something for me because it helps make this life slightly more bearable.
Well, and I think it's kind of sad that not everybody finds their ultimate purpose. I'm lucky to, I believe, have found what I want to do with my life and what I'm good at and what I think I can make some type of lasting impression after I'm gone. And not everybody is fortunate enough to figure that out in time to do something about it, because some people, do flip burgers their entire life and there's nothing wrong with that. You have to find happiness in that. If that's the talents you have, and not everybody has the talents to create a book or a comic or make a movie or play in the NBA or NFL or in the NHL for the Canadian people that might be listening.
Oh, Columbus Blue Jackets all the way, right?
They were a pro team for several years, and I didn't even know they were a pro team. I thought they were like a AAA. Like, and somebody was like, "I'm going to a Blue Jackets game," and I was like, "Why?" And they were like, "They're playing the Penguins or something," and I was like,
Holy
"Why
crap.
are they playing the Penguins?" And they're like, "Because they're a hockey team." I was like, "Oh, they're like a legit hockey team." I didn't know that. So I've never been to a hockey game. I'd like to go. I don't know too much about it. I always tell people everything I know about hockey comes from the Mighty Ducks movies.
I don't know what to say. I don't have an answer to that one. I don't know whether I should give you a hug. It's like they're there, or I'm like, or should I be like just flabbergasted? Because you live in you live in the Midwest. Midwestern Americans do know their hockey, right? Right. And I've talked to like some secretly Canadian, like I had Stephanie Phillips who writes Harley Quinn on the show. She's a big Tampa Bay Lightning fan. So it's like there are Americans that know their hockey, right? And it's like, so I almost feel like I should pick on you, but then again, I'm like, you guys, your big sport is football. Like not real football where you're actually kicking a ball. But I'm talking about soccer is what they call it. Like depending on what part of the world you go, football is a very different thing. Football in England is very different than football in the United States.
Well, I played soccer in high school, and I don't even watch soccer now. Like I still watch. I'm a Packers shareholder, and I watch the Packers games. That's pretty much the only sport I care about at all, really.
Well, yeah, you got money involved, right?
Well, yeah, I don't get anything from it. I just bought it. It's more of a bragging rights thing. Like when they wanted to build part of their stadium up better, so they sold some shares. It was like $300 or something, and I have a little certificate. It really doesn't mean anything other than I can say, like, you know how people say like, oh, we won or we lost, and it's always like, oh, you didn't play. I get to kind of say that because I do kind of own part of it.
Okay, so lots to unpack there. I will forgive you. I will forgive you for your. I will forgive you for your hockey stuff. I won't hold it against you much. A little bit, not much. There.
I'm wearing a hockey hat, even.
Yeah. I know. Like I said, it's okay. I forgive you. And I also give you a hug. So going back to your initial point, going to a hockey game live is fun, even if you don't. The thing about soccer, like the actual thing, soccer, it's a sport more fun to play than it is to watch.
Yep, absolutely.
Because you're always moving. Like if you're actually on the soccer field, you're always moving. Like you're always part of the action of the game, and it's fun. Even if you're playing just defense or goalie, the ball moves up and down so much. Yeah, right. You're like everybody's involved in the play at some point. Hockey's the same, but hockey's the same way, but hockey's faster because it's less guys. You got 12 people on the ice, right? And they're going all out for like 1 minute, 2 minutes. They're coming out, they're coming in. It is one of those games where it's like you see it and you're going, wow. Like I've been to a game live there. Like there are cool rushes. It's not like baseball. It's not like soccer. It's not even basketball's boring to watch, right? Like it's just boring to watch. Most of the time. Some championship games are kind of fun, but for the most part, they're boring. Football is fun to play, if painful sometimes, right? But it's also kind of boring to watch. It's guys going down, play for a minute, stop, play for a minute, stop.
Yeah, they need to speed it up a little bit. That's for sure.
Yeah. But hockey,
baseball is really boring.
Oh God, no, it's true. It's going to a ballpark is neat. I will say it's actually going to an actual ball game in a park is a very neat experience, and it's really cool. But the game itself almost doesn't.
Yeah, I think being at any of those is cool because, like, my stepdad is a big like racing fan, and I'm not so much into racing. But when I was younger, he would take me to the races, and it's cool to be there. It's it's a lot more exciting than it is to watch them go in circles on TV.
Oh God.
But yeah, it's so that's why I assume going to a hockey game or baseball or anything like that would be enjoyable. I've been to a handful of NFL games, and they're pretty fun. So.
Oh yeah. What's your football team? I gotta ask.
Oh, the Packers.
The Packers are your team, but like, do you watch any of the Ohio teams at all?
like I watch any NFL game. I don't really care much for college because I moved around a lot as a kid, so we never like settled on a team necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if somebody put a gun to my head, I would root for the Tennessee Volunteers, but I can't name any. I don't even know who the coach is. Like I don't know anything about it. So
Yeah, no, I got you. No, I totally get it. No, I understand your pain. No, no, no. I just figured I'd ask. I just figured I'd ask that before I would continue down the road here. I'm bringing this up because, like, again, the experience is there. Um, the experience of going to a live event is always fun. Hockey is my favorite by far. There's so much that can happen in a hockey game, but racetrack. I've been to the racetrack. I've been to the baseball stadium. I haven't done a football game, so I can't comment there. I've done soccer. Soccer just doesn't. It's not as fun to watch. It just isn't. It's fun to play though. It's probably my favorite sport to play. Although I am terribly out of shape and get my ass kicked right now.
yeah,
Right. You gotta be in shape for that. Same with basketball. You gotta be in shape. You gotta be in shape to play those games.
I played like an alumni game for my high school team. I was maybe 2 or 3 years out, and I was already way out of shape. You know, I did all right because I was pretty good at soccer, but I was like huffing and puffing. I couldn't keep up. So I can.
It catches you, right? It catches you. It catches you because, frankly, it's a lot of work. I mean, being that active, that movement. I mean, it takes getting in some shape. I'm in decent walking shape. I can walk for like miles, literally miles, and not even like notice. But that's a far cry from being in shape to actually like just go. Um, it's good as like, but again, those sports, I think a lot of sports are fun to play. Um, and going back to everything else you said and unpack there, it's cool you own a piece of Green Bay. It's cool even if it's just like purely for bragging rights. I mean, you should put that in your bio. Josh Nealis, Green Bay Packers owner.
Actually, I think on my like if you go to my Facebook page, I think as one of my jobs, it does say Packers shareholder. Like it's not even a real thing. Although I do get invited to the meetings and I do get to vote on things, but it doesn't really matter, really.
Well, Aaron Rodgers' new contract, yay or nay? Nay. No, I mean.
Yeah, pay him.
Yeah.
Pay him, but bring in other people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my decision. I only got this much money. Figure it out. I don't care. You got my money. Give it to me. Back to writing here. So, novels or comics? Which one was your first love?
Comics were my first love. Although I don't know which one I like writing better. It's a totally different experience writing each. You can get into way more depth with a novel, and you can build the characters kind of quicker because you can do it in the course of one book. As where a comic, I'm only writing. So I had 3 series. I wrote 3 issues of each, and now we're doing an Avengers style team with them. So I'm still developing those characters, and I think Stingray 1, which was the first comic, came out 2016. So 5 years, and he's only been in it. He had his 3 books and now Turkey Sharks. So it's taken that long to develop the character where he's at. As where my last book, Hellscape, which is like my most detailed and elaborate book, those characters, I mean, really blossomed in the course of 300 whatever pages. So it's cool that you get to develop those characters quicker through writing a novel. But the comics, you get the visual with it as well and all that. So it's just it's a different animal, really.
It's like speaking 2 different languages. Like when you do a comic, you're creating your story's beats are smaller, but you're trying to like create like this moment in time.
Right.
And you go do it from one panel to the next, however that looks like for each and every issue. A novel is a lot more work in terms of you got more playing room. You got a lot more playing room. You're looking at about difference in words, like in terms of what people actually see on in a comic. You're looking at 500 to 1,000 words tops in a comic.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more, but not much more. Like it's tiny.
It might not even be that much, honestly.
The
script. I mean, it depends on the book. Like my scripts are probably maybe around that.
No, your scripts are bigger. I guarantee your scripts are bigger than that.
I'm never going to work down on them.
I've done a word count. My average comic script is about 6,000 words.
Oh, really?
It adds up. Like
Yeah.
you'd be like, even though most of that you'll never see the actual on the actual page,
Right.
right? It does add up. And when you figure out dialogue is about 250 characters, so if you assume 100 words a page, which isn't really that unrealistic. Right? It like going to about anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 words, depending on how a comic's broken down. I don't think is actually that far out. But the difference is you can have your storytelling, a lot of your storytelling and heavy lifting be done by the illustrations,
Right.
and because comics are visual. In the novel, you have now in comparison, a novel can go anywhere from 50 to 100,000 words. That's a lot of room to go into a character and figure out who they are, what they want, and where they're going. So you don't have the shortcut of illustration to speed this up. You have
You have to tell the people what color the drapes are instead of showing them, or what color the floor is, or depending on what you want to say.
I think that's the other big difference. Show and tell works a lot differently in both. And that's I think probably the biggest difference. You can show something like you have the option with dialogue in a comic to tie in, like you can show one or two different things with your characters. You can make those decisions very early on. Very early on. You can make like decisions. Like for example, you can have a scene where you're talking about like having two characters talk about something unimportant, like maybe it's a report, like evil dictators getting told by evil henchmen some not like a piece of information that's important to the evil villain, but nothing consequential. But you can have that evil villain doing something horrible or torturous or wonderful. Like movie examples of this are so the guy that plays Butcher in The Boys was also starred in Red. And there's this one scene in Red where he's listening to his director, all the while he's slowly torturing / executing this guy for the good of the country. Said a lot about who the guy was because he was actually no, it was talking to his wife about getting milk. Quietly just talking to his wife about getting milk for the grocery store.
Okay,
All the while and all the while he is executing this guy that's an enemy of America or something or other, whatever the case may be. You learn very quickly this is a guy that compartmentalizes his life because just how he did that. He takes his job very seriously because he was very, very efficient and ruthless at it. And he was doing stuff for the country that he thought was right. And he was sparing his wife the details, which also says that says an awful lot about his relationship to his wife as well, right? What he trusts her with, what he doesn't trust her with. And you've learned all of this in just a few lines of dialogue. When you have a visual component to a story, you have this luxury of telling that story in a lot differently. Whereas in a novel, you're still crafting imagery, but you're doing it with words. So the decision you got to make with a novel is, or any kind of written word is, what information do I give away without telling you? Like, for example, I'm writing an Alice in Wonderland Greek mythology mashup right now. Cover's going to get revealed this week. I'm kind of excited about it for the next release. But here's the thing about it. So I have the scene where I admit that my Alice character, she's got the Cheshire Cat in her shadow right now, has a crush on Medusa because it's just something in there, and their back and forth dialogue about it says it without me actually saying you have a crush on Medusa, because again, show and tell. It's how you say it.
Well, and you can also let the reader kind of decide what they think they're saying too. You can kind of let them.
Yeah. Like you have those, like, those are decisions you make, and the big difference between prose and comics is, right, how you show and tell. Comics, you have the options of, you can say stuff in the dialogue too. There are tricks with that with comics, but a lot of the time it's the illustrations that do the heavy lifting with the show and tell, right? They do. They do a lot, and sometimes very cleverly. Like one of my favorites, one of my favorite people that does it is Jimmy Robinson. The Five Weapons series, I love. It had an Encyclopedia Brown kind of vibe to it, so he had all these little details going on in the background. So when he had his character placed in a conundrum, you actually also gave everybody the solutions as well, and he showed the next issue everything he did in the previous issue to kind of reveal what was going on. It was incredibly clever. And comics have that advantage. Prose, you kind of have to make that okay, so what information is important to tell this story? And why and how do I tell it in a way that's fun for me? This took me a long time to figure out, by the way. It's like I royally on the prose for this, right? Comics in that sense is easier because again, you got pictures, but prose, I have to think about it. That makes sense.
Well, it's also too in a novel. When do you release whatever information? Mm-hmm. You can hold it back all the way to the end and make it a surprise. You can kind of give it up in the beginning and feed into who the reader is going to, or how the reader is going to see the character going forward. So it's just kind of you tailor it as you want the reader to like or hate that character or feel for them or think they're an asshole or whatever. So there's that too. It's same thing with how you'd said in comics, you might have a villain talking to a henchman. You could have the henchman in the picture groveling and shaking, or you could have him with his middle finger up behind his back, flipping off, the main villain. So that tells you if the henchman respects or fears him. So you get that right away as well.
Oh yeah, I think my favorite thing with I think my favorite decision with a comic book is if the characters know they're being watched. If they actually know like someone's out there. Mm-hmm. That is such a neat choice that a lot of people don't think about, because it's like, that because it changes the whole story. If they're aware of what's going on, if the characters are they're looking at you and gesturing to you, they know you're being watched. They know you're there. Whereas if they don't, they never even acknowledge you, right? That's also there. I think like you said, like comics again, the decisions are different, but they're all neat and interesting, and you can tell so many cool stories figuring out those little details. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I've only broken the fourth wall like one time in my comics. I don't even remember what the setup was, but I had the main villain and hero. They both like looked over, if you're reading the page, they both looked over like they do in the movies and stare right at the reader. I forget what it was. It was pretty funny though, whatever joke it was. I think it was about Ernest, like the, you know what I mean, Ernest guy. I think it was something to do with him because I remember the panel before it said something about him. I forget what it was. I think that was in Pedo Man 3, I think is where it was at, but I don't remember the joke offhand, which is kind of weird.
It's okay. I like to pretend I remember everything I write. I don't.
Yeah, I had somebody asking me about a story the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, and then here's what I was like telling them how it ended because they were like, I'm never going to read it, so just tell me. And I was like, I don't remember how it ends. That story. I was like, I haven't read it in 4 years, but it's really funny. I know it's funny. You should go read it.
I know it's good. I know I really liked it. But what's it about? I don't know.
This was a story about a hunter going to Africa on safari, and the animals turn on him, and then they rape him all night. Like an Animal Farm kind of, like, I don't know if you heard this story in Canada about the dentist from like Minnesota. He went and killed that lion. Did you hear about that? And everybody got all mad about him. Yeah, some dentist went on safari in Africa, killed a lion. Like they baited the lion off of whatever reservation and then killed him. And then everybody got mad about it. But so I kind of went with that story where the animals turn on him. It's probably one of the most gross things I've written. Not everything is that gross, but I wanted to do something just completely disgusting and see how far I could take it.
Wait, and I did. The hunter's turn now.
Yeah.
it's our turn. We're getting evil. We're getting evil. Um, I think I think my favorite. It's really sad to say this. When the way it reminded me of like a Bugs Bunny cartoon where Daffy Duck actually boxed Elmer Fudd, and it was like the most rigged game ever. The Wrath, like the Wrath and Daffy, like beat the crap out of Elmer right before the match started, so Elmer didn't even have a chance. It was like,
I think I remember that one.
yeah, it's kind of it's the same kind of concept. Elmer was hunting Daffy. It's like, what chance do I got? You got to use your guns and all your stuff. Like, fight me in a fair fight, and I'll kick your butt. And it wasn't fair. Daffy just rigged the game just to win. It was just like, okay, then. It was just one of those weird. Yeah. No, we are in like a very weird time, but on the same token, I mean, I think human beings have always been mad. I think that's something I've just come to the realization is we're an insane species. Like we just are.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, deep down we're all animals. We all have those same common things. Produce or reproduce and survive. We both have those two things for the most part. Not everybody's got their own little idiosyncrasies. But then from there, we're all just fucked. Completely different people. Like the way people, just okay. So just earlier, I was reading some comments on like Suicide Squad, and no spoilers, but I thought it was pretty cool, especially compared to some of the other DC movies. And I was like, man, I bet people really love this. And I was reading some comments, and people were like hating on it. I was like, I thought it was really good. So even just that, I mean, the experiences people have in life, they can watch the same movie and one person can totally hate it and one person can totally love it. Oh, yeah. It's like it's still the same product, but they just see it totally different. So it's just,
I think that's the cool thing about human beings actually is we all have this ability to experience life in a very different way, and we all do. Like no one has the exact same story, and that's actually if you really sit there and think about that, that's an amazing thing, right? No one has the exact same story. That's actually kind of awesome, right? But at the same time, I mean, it means that sometimes you and I will watch the same. We'll watch the same thing. I'll be like, "Hockey rules," and you're like, "Fuck hockey."
Yep.
I don't even know what the hell this is. I learned everything from the Mighty Ducks. I'm sorry, man. I can't help it. I'm just gonna pick on you for that.
Right. But say my dad would have raised me to like hockey. If my dad would have liked hockey and we would have watched hockey as a kid, I probably would like hockey now. And
maybe you couldn't stand it. Maybe like, oh, these stupid guys and their stupid sticks and their stupid.
Yeah, maybe that.
Like, what the hell are they doing? Like that's the thing. Like everybody's got this like own. Right, we can be brainwashed. I mean, Lord knows. I mean, although I don't regret it, my dad was a huge Star Trek Next Generation fan, and I got hooked on it. I mean, there are far worse shows to be hooked on than that show.
For sure.
You're right.
There are far worse Star Treks to be hooked on other than that show. So
yeah, yeah. we won't debate that one. It's like, I won't pick on Voyager. But at the same token, right? It's like that. That's the cool thing about life is no one person sees the world the exact same way, and I actually encourage that.
Yeah,
because we live in a who wants to? I won't diss Spock. Spock's good. There are parts. There are some episodes from that show I don't care for, but there's also some good ones there too. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna knock it. That's me. There, Doris. But but I mean, we all again. It's just that's the thing. That's the nature of the world. Like I think that's the least insane thing about us. I think we're insane when we unite as a mob. That's I think we're at our most crazy, right?
Yeah, and that's why I don't get people that don't like diversity, not only in their culture but in the books and TV shows and all that they read. It's like you're not getting the best stories that can be told, because if you're only seeing this small sector of one person's story, they can only tell so many stories. and with so many different perspectives on it. So that's, like in my comics and stuff, I'm trying to branch out and have different gender heroes and villains and race and all that, because like I don't want to write just boring white people all the time. Like you got to have some flavor in there, some different perspective from growing up. Like my one hero, her name is Loose Cannon, and she's just a fireball. She's not a fireball. Like her personality is a fireball, and but she wears a pot on her head because she grew up homeless. And then there's another kid from Australia. His name is Drop Bear, and he's from Australia. He's an Aboriginal kid from Australia. And then there's like a chubby kid named not Water Bear, Tardigrade. So it's like I'm trying to be able to tell these different stories other than just, white guy gets bit by a spider and fights crime.
Listen, I truly believe there is like a true supervillain called Plain White Guy. Just have him dressed up like literally like let him be like the rice cake, the dry humor rice cake in your comic, right? He's so plain. He's so plain. He actually makes sour cream seem dark, right? And right, I think you could actually have some serious fun with and we can get away with this because we are white guys. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, listen, um, we can do white and like do a homage to like white and nerdy Weird Al Yankovic, and then, like I'm whiter than sour cream. Just go with that, and just like I think we'd have a great supervillain. And people would be like, I don't know if they're serious or not because I'm completely deadpan the whole time, right? Maybe
I did one character. His name was Christian Wright, like Wright, and he was trying to get. So one of my sidekicks is Kid Friendly. He dresses in a sailor outfit, and he's like 11 or 10 or whatever. And Christian Wright was preaching on a corner next to the Huxtable Pharmacy, which was a joke on Bill Cosby.
Oh, good
and he was holding I think his sign said like Tim Tebow is God or something like that. He was holding like a sign, being a street preacher, and he was trying to get Kid Friendly to come over for his prayer group and stuff. And then of course the main hero is like, absolutely not. It's a funny little scene. And he hits him with a dildo basically and knocks him out of his clothes. Then the cops arrest Christian Wright, and then they say, or he's like, instead of going to jail, can you just move me to a different town, basically, as like the Catholic Church likes to do. So there's just a whole little couple page scene of that. It was fun. It was fun to write.
And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, human beings are insane. Right here. It's like how can we completely make fun of our culture today? All of that and then some.
Yeah.
And in 10 more years, we'll have new jokes about this time. Hey, remember when we all went insane? Yeah, that was a bad time. It really was. Let's make fun of it.
I would make fun of that stuff now. For me, I'm not. There's never a too soon for me. My mind is pretty dark.
Oh no, there's sometimes I want to laugh. I laugh so hard I could cry, right? But that's the world we live in, right? And we get through it one day at a time. I do think though that in spite of everything, we'll figure it out eventually. One day there will be a world where everybody can be free enough to do their own thing. You know what? When you get right down to it, this is what everybody has in common, and I don't think everybody agrees. Really, when you get right down to it, we want to do what we love with the people we love, and to the rest, be left alone. I don't think there's really anybody that has a different philosophy to that other than that, right? And even with all that, there still would be conflicts, but I mean, just that live and let live thing.
Right.
I'm hoping we get wiser with that as the days and weeks and months and years. I've learned that the right answer today is almost never the right answer tomorrow. Sometimes I'll question whether it's the right answer today. Right? It's like, right, and you just go, you look at it like that, and you're like, well, I don't really know what works. And maybe that's just maybe where I'm at. It's like, I don't know anymore. I just think I'm just gonna do my thing, and I hope you do your thing, and the rest, shrug. That's it.
Well, and the world is slowly getting more progressive as far as that kind of stuff goes, because there are people trying to, they fear change, and they can't handle that, certain people are more accepted now and all that. So all they do is fight against it, and really they're wasting their time, because eventually, kids growing up are going to be more used to, the people that they're around, and it's to fight change is really a waste of energy, because you can't stop progress and you can't stop change.
Nope.
You look at, even in North America, we've gone from slavery, and then women's prohibition or women's suffrage and all that, women in the workforce during World War II, and then then we have marriage equality and all that, and now we're working on all these other things. It's like, you're on the wrong side. Any time an issue like that comes up, if you're against it, you're going to, in history, be on the wrong side, because that's what history has proven to done. So why stand in the way of it when you can just embrace it and understand that, like we were talking, the world is going to be better when we get a lot of different perspectives, because that's where you problem solve. Because you might not know what 2 times 3,658 is, but your neighbor who went to college and has a math degree will be able to do that in his head. That's probably not the best example, but when you collectively put all of our minds together and all of our experiences together, we can solve a problem. But if you're standing in the way of the problem solvers being included in the discussion to solve the problems, then you become the problem. And I'm actually just kind of speaking out my ass. I don't know what I'm even saying anymore.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just listening, and I'm just nodding, because it's like, I think you basically said what I just said. Like, what life has changed, and ultimately, it'll hopefully get better. So let's see here. What's the novel you're most proud of, and the comic you're most proud of creating?
Oh, well, that's a tough question, because I like all my work. I think all of it is good. I think I have gotten better over the years, for sure. My new book, Hellscape, which came out a few months ago, is probably my best book overall, because it's very detailed. It's very deep. The characters are, I think, extremely well written. I think I went above my talent level with this book, and the people that have read it seem to really enjoy it. My favorite comic that I've written, I mean, it's always your next one, right?
I hope. You hope. You hope.
So yeah, Turkey Shark's #1, which is on Kickstarter now, it's a cool book. I think I've gotten good, like I said, with Hellscape. I've gotten better at writing comics, just like I have books, and I think it's the best written. The characters are finally developed, and I found a way, that you don't need to go back and read the other 9 books that precede this one, because this is my 10th book. I think I found a way to make their voices heard, and let the reader know who they are in this 24-page story. And you get some pretty cool surprises as well. And it's pretty funny, because Pedo Man and Kid Friendly are in it, and they're always a riot.
You seem to have the fun not taking yourself too seriously. So, and based on what you just told me with Kid Friendly earlier, you definitely don't take yourself too seriously when you.
No.
So we'll do the full-fledged plug and play. I think I got one last big question for you, and we haven't done too many questions in this episode.
Right.
We've just been literally joshing around. I double joshing, the double joshing version of just joshing, ladies and gentlemen. But that all said, what do you feel like? What do you feel, whether it's a book or a comic book, that you're trying to say? Like, do you see yourself as a comedic guy? Do you see yourself as someone with something really serious to say, or do you try to make people think, or are you just having fun?
I mean, it's kind of all that. Like, I don't know, I don't. Everybody thinks they're special because you're the only person living in your skin.
Hmm.
So to each person, you're the most important person in the world. I mean, obviously you say your kids are, but you still, even your kids are a different person than you are. So you really only know yourself, or am able to know yourself. I think I'm pretty complex. A lot of my books are humor driven, but I always find a way to put life lessons kind of in them, um, especially in the books, because I want people. I've always thought I was good at learning from the mistakes of others. So a lot of my characters make a lot of mistakes, and I hope people can read those books and not make those mistakes themselves, or that my characters are relatable in a way where they can see themselves in the character and not feel shitty about themselves. Um, but I do like to write a lot of ridiculous shit. A lot of my stuff is really stupid. Like I have, there's one story about the founding fathers of America getting drunk in a bar, and it's just really stupid. It's one of the dumbest things I've written. Ben Franklin is in it. He's talking about making instead of the bald eagle, wanting the turkey, which is a thing that he had kind of said a few times, but I just ran with it. Um, and like John Hancock, I don't know if you know who that is since you're from Canada, but he wrote his name real big on the Declaration of Independence. So in the story, he's a giant and can barely fit through the door. So it was a lot of fun. I think it's called Gobble Gobble Liberty, I think is what it's called. But it's just a stupid.
Yeah, I would have gone the other way with John Hancock. I would have made him really small. And
No,
big signature is this way of compensating. I'm
yeah,
a tiny man, big signature, but
that
tiny.
also would have been pretty funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to compensate for something. Leave me alone. Leave
Mhm.
me alone. And just that. I like comedy too. Like I think one of my like my. It's funny you mentioned drunk in a bar. I think my funniest thing I've ever read was I'm a big Good Omens fan. Neil Gaiman, Terry Pratchett, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, missing the apocalypse because they decided to get drunk in a bar. Right, and that was it. Like,
Very funny.
yeah, no, it was great. Like watching Terry Pratchett, watching Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman come up with like Terry Pratchett is probably the best writer of death ever. It's like a rest in peace, Terry. But his deaths were so funny, and that death was still in there. But war, like all of the like their dialogue, it was just wonderful. It's like, yeah, we're gonna go into this apocalypse, and they start showing up like 100 pages in. By the time you get towards the end of the book, you just realize they're too drunk to do anything, like absolutely anything. It's like they're having a good time in the bar. They're just having a great little time, and it just sounds like your presidents are much like the four horsemen, and I guess it doesn't matter who you are. You get to the bar, you're getting drunk, and you're having a good time,
Yeah.
and hopefully you don't wake up in any two stranger places that you didn't want to go when you were sober.
Yeah. I mean, that story, I'm having problems even remember exactly what happened. I may have to go read it because again, it's one I wrote, years ago, and I remember the premise, and I remember that it was really funny. Um, and oddly, I had mentioned Hellscape, and that's actually not a comedy. I think that's the first thing that I've written that's really not a comedy. There's one character. I mean, this is going to make it sound like a comedy, but his name is Spaghetti Jenkins, and
It's a good name. That's a good name.
yeah. So it takes place 400 years in the future, and a lot of the characters, their knowledge of today's world is gone mostly. So a lot of them have like names. Like one guy's named Ray-Ban, which is like after the sunglasses, Ray-Ban. So it like twists, and one guy's like Gray Skull instead of Gray Skull from He-Man.
You,
Like
you,
like
you,
shit like that.
you're a punster. I can.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, Spaghetti Jenkins is he's the comedy relief, but he's not really all that funny. So yeah, that book actually isn't super funny. There are very few jokes. It was really a deep book. I wanted to write something as deep and thoughtful as like the Harry Potter series. Like not saying that however you feel about her is one thing, but it's a well written. There's a lot of everything connects and everything makes sense with each other. So I wanted to write something big and elaborate.
Here's the thing, okay, well, say what you will about Rowling personally. Let's
Right.
put that aside for the time being. Harry Potter, for me, the first two books are okay. They're not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but to me, they're just okay. Prisoner of Azkaban's her magic book, the third one, the one where his uncle escapes from the prison, and Harry having to confront the killer of his parents.
Right.
That book is so adult, and it's her best book. It's one of her shorter books, ironically enough, but it's her best book because it's Harry Potter dealing at his most adult, by far his most adult, because he's dealing with stuff that his adults struggle with: forgiveness, revenge, pain, loss, trauma, and stuff that he has a legitimate weakness with. And you could really what makes that book in particular, I think, so good is because you could relate to Harry. Harry, at the very beginning of the book, just he hears his aunt going off about how awful his parents were, and it just snaps something in him. And the first time he nearly loses control, he backs away. He's like, "This is a problem," but she kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Eventually, he just snaps. He just loses it, and turns her into like a balloon that goes up into the air. And it's just like, first off, good sense of humor there, but also very real. It's a very real thing. You push a button on somebody hard enough, I don't care who you are, you're gonna snap. But the second part is he finally gets the person that made all this possible. The person, not Lupin. I think not Lupin. What's the name of the guy? Pettigrew. I think it was Scabbers the Mouse. I think it's Peter Pettigrew's his actual name when he was a man. When Pettigrew's gonna, and I'm spoiling Prisoner of Azkaban, everybody, but the book's been around forever. I'm not gonna feel that bad about it. When he confronts Pettigrew, and I hope I think the names are off, but that's okay.
No, I think that's it. Peter Pettigrew.
Yeah, I think so. Part of me feels like it's just slightly off, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That is such an adult moment. It is such an adult thing. It happens, and you realize that book. I could see why that book was such the bestseller it was, because not only is it a nice, neat little story, that felt incredibly real. And it doesn't have to be funny. It doesn't have to be happy ending or sad ending. It has to feel real. When I look at a guy like Stephen King, why he sells, yeah, it's name recognition to some degree, but he writes a really good book.
Right.
He really, really, really does. And you can't take it away from him. You just can't, and that emotional resonance and impact is what makes a good author a great author. So Josh, if your book makes people laugh, that's awesome. But if you make people feel right, then you've got something really special there, regardless of what the feeling is. If you can make them feel it, you've won.
And it can be any feeling. It can be
absolutely.
It can be the laughter. It can be sadness, joy. Yeah. You have to connect, and you have to write characters that feel real, whether they take place 400 years in the future or in the past or right now.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what it comes down to. It's not. Man, we make this sound so simple. It's not. It really isn't. But that's it. And if you got a book that makes people feel, you've done something truly special. And you feel like you've done that, you feel like you leveled up when you did that with this book. So I'm gonna make a guess. Here. And if I'm wrong, just correct myself. Okay, just to correct. When you were younger, you did funnier books. Humor's always fun to do. But getting in, but the thing is, humor can do one of two things. You make people aware of things you give a shit about, but it could also cover up, other maybe deeply emotional things you're not maybe ready, stories you're ready to tell yet. It sounds to me like this novel was almost, I'm not going to say a breakthrough exactly, because you probably always could have told this story, but it sounds to me like, I don't know, it sounds like to me like you leveled up and you're like, I'm more in touch with this, and I give a shit about more things. I can still be funny, and I will be funny, but now I'm ready to explore some of the other parts of the emotional spectrum and prove maybe to, if not to anybody else but yourself, that you can tell those kinds of stories. Am I wrong, or am I on bad drugs, or I mean, just I'm just
I'd say you're honestly, I mean, pretty close. I mean, yeah, it was just like I said, how I started doing the little movie review page. You know, I worked on that and brushed up on that, and then I wrote the first book, Stuffed Squirrels and Porcelain Angels, which is a dark comedy about suicide. You know, and it's very dark, but it is very funny. I mean, it's joke after joke after joke. You know, and then I wrote some short stories and poems, and kind of moved into. I did a couple kids books, but Hellscape is, you know, it is the breakthrough. It is me having learned how to connect with each piece of my own self to write these different characters, because every character you write is a piece of you, period. I mean, it came from you, so it has to be a piece of you. You have to understand that character because you created it. But yeah, and I did go through quite a bit of pain. I went through like a divorce and stuff like that. And I mean, comedy is a great way to make yourself feel better by writing something funny, a funny joke on Facebook, or a funny book or comic. But yeah, definitely Hellscape is, like I said, the characters are so well thought out. It took me 2 years to write that book, so you know that's a long time. And it's I think it's like a little over 80,000 words. So it's very thought out, very specific. Every word is exactly where I wanted it, and so it's yeah, it definitely was, I would say, a breakthrough to prove to myself that I could write something like that, because I knew what I wanted to do when I started it. You know, I knew that I wanted to write something big in scope that could stand the test of time. Not that I don't think my other books and comics and stuff are good, because they are, but they're a different animal totally than this one.
it's also that moment that there's a threshold with every artist where you cross what's in your, like, you're good in your head. Like we get caught in our heads so much as creatives. It's when we hit our heart. It's like, okay, I'm not just thinking about it anymore. I can feel it. And when
Right.
you can feel it, you're actually good.
Well,
And you'll actually, because it'll translate. Doesn't matter what the genre, what the when you can give a shit about it and you have a very clear idea what that is you give a shit about, and you can translate that onto the page, you'll create a connection. And once you can do that, and if you can do that, you're great.
yeah.
But that takes a long time for a lot of creatives to get to that point.
Well, and like so the first Stuffed Squirrels and Porcelain Angels, I think it's a little over 50,000 words. I wrote a sequel / spinoff about it. And when I was writing that one, I was struggling to get to that mark. Like I just could not find content. This was, like I said, it's 80,000, and I was like almost kind of trying to skim it down a little bit to get it done, because it was just like absolutely pouring out. Like I was not having an issue writing these characters or this story. So that was a big difference as well with that one.
Absolutely. No, like I said, but again, you had something you wanted to say. You had something you had something you truly cared about,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was something like you cared about this. This was beyond. I'm thinking about a plot. Oh shit, where do I go from here? No, it's like I got something I really, really believe in worth saying.
Yeah.
And again, that takes a long time. Like honest, that takes a very, very long time, but to figure that out. That's the secret between good and great, my friend. If you cross that threshold, you're gonna write great shit. You just
I hope
are.
so.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. I believe in everything I've written. If I didn't believe in
Oh
it,
sure, no.
yeah.
But there are levels. Like you know what I mean. There are
Oh,
levels to it, and I love the Cloud Diver. I actually have a unicorn that literally talks out of his ass of advertisements and rainbows. So it's just like that. I mean, I totally get like the lack of seriousness. But if I were to do that book again, I would have done a few things a little differently. And the sequel to it is going to be a lot more in depth and deeper and a little bit more into that element. And like I said, I'm enjoying the heck out. I'm doing Alice in Wonderland right now. I know, like, I'm talking about bravery. It's a big part of that story. It's about being brave and what that actually means. And considering what, like, I'm a comic guy too. Like, my comic of choice was Green Lantern. So bravery is a big part of what I grew up reading about. So we'll see if I get it right or if I don't get it right. But again, it took me a long time to get there. And those things you care about, those things that matter to you, that's probably, again, figuring out all those things that are going back to like what's your purpose, what you care about, those things. That's a big part of the journey. And I don't know if everybody goes through that process, if that makes sense. Right. So, and you know, I say to their detriment, like not finding a purpose. I think people, whether they realize it or not, do figure out some purpose eventually. But being happy and looking and understanding who they are and what they want and why they're here, that's a journey, and not everybody undertakes that. And when you're a creative, you kind of have to. If there's no otherwise, you will never be able to tell the best stories you can.
Well, and you'll never be happy either. If you've
Yeah.
got creativity in you and you're not doing it because you hear people say like, oh, I work this factory job and I hate it, but I've got 4 kids that I got to take care of. And that's, you're doing the right thing. I'm not saying you're not, but deep down in your life, you're going to know that you could have done something else and you never took that risk or that leap, or you never figured out exactly what that something else would have been. And unfortunately, I think that's most people won't ever figure that out.
So is that okay? Again, going back to something we said very earlier. I'm not saying don't take care of your kids, but is that really the right thing? Because here's the thing: you're doing your day job right now, and yeah, you're doing it because you don't have the money to with your creative yet to go. Hey, I can go play ball with my kid on a day I feel like it because my creativity will let me create that time, because that's what you're ultimately trying to do, is create those time to have those moments to really that you give a damn about. Bottom
Right.
line, that right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm also very fortunate that my day job is actually pretty sweet. Like I have a pretty good gig. I don't
Oh,
hate it at all. So
sure. We'll get to like that in just a second, but this is kind of where I'm going with this. If you spend your whole life, again, nothing wrong with taking care of your kids. That's not what I'm saying. But if that's all you're doing, what message are you sending to your kids?
right.
You can chase your dreams until you're an adult, and then you gotta be responsible. I'm not sure that's the message you want to send. I think the you want them to have a sense of responsibility, yes. But there's no reason that you can't be both responsible and chase your dreams.
Right.
I think there comes a point with people that like I said, me right now, I chose this. I could have stayed. I was making $25 an hour doing the job I was doing, and it was fine. I would have had my body break down eventually, like everybody else that was working there, and I would have been on the best painkillers money can buy. But I mean, besides that, my life would have been pretty good. Um, but I never would have wondered, like, even if this doesn't work out, I think it's going to work out, because there's a difference from the first time I freelanced and this time. I don't have the same fear. Like, the fear is pretty much gone. It's more like, fucking, I'm going to do it. Bottom line, it might take me months on end, but I'm going to fucking do this. And I have this decision in my head. It's like, this is going to work. How I'm going to do this, one way or the other. Otherwise, I'm going to go on a boat in like California, and I'm going to fish and drink and fish and not give a fuck. I'm too old. I am too old to care, right? I made that decision. I think every adult sooner or later needs to make that decision, even themselves. You got to take care of your kids, sure.
Right.
But you don't want to wait your whole life, even with those kids. You have to show them, yeah, it is possible for your dreams to come true. Because the last thing because especially we live in a world today, like, I'm sure your gig is sweet, but will these gigs be around in 10, 20 years? Probably not, right? We're probably not retiring like we used to either. And we're dealing with a world, we're going to deal with a world where we live in a world today where there is no loyalty. So why, I don't know if teaching your kid to be like loyal to a job because you got to feed your kids is necessarily the wise thing to do, because that loyalty is, in that case, is very one-sided. We've seen countless examples of this in the last 4 decades.
Yeah, I mean, you have to teach them how to be an adult, as far as, yes, you have to take care of your kids, but yeah, it is. And that's why I work in front of my kid a lot. I sit right here while he sits there, and he'll see me working on comics or books, and I tell him every day I got to get this done, then we can go play or whatever. But yeah, when you make that decision, it's not only making the decision that you want to write comics or books or movies or whatever, or paint or whatever it is you want to do. You also have to decide how much do you want it, because and what you want to do with it. Do you just want to write a book to be like, I did finally write a book and now I'm happy with that? Or are you trying to sell that book to 1 million people and get it made into a movie, and so on and so on? So you have to make all those decisions, and then you have to decide how much you want that achievement. Because if you really don't want it that much, it's just kind of something you kind of felt maybe you should do, then you're jumping in the wrong arena, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's the interesting challenge. Like I said, not saying your job isn't sweet. I'm sure it is. It's just like one of those things where just like you look at it, and we just know it's on borrowed time. And in this life, everything's on borrowed time. So spending your whole life being responsible, I don't know if that actually truly is, ironically, the responsible thing. But what do I know? I'm a guy with nothing to lose at this point. So
Sometimes it's the best place to be in, honestly.
yeah. So on that note, my friend, I think we've had a pretty good double joshing episode. What do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's getting late here, and I can feel my brain is like shutting down.
Right? Yeah. So first off, pleasure to meet you, sir. It was nice
Yeah,
to
man.
have you on my show. You're more than welcome to come back anytime. But we should do the promo, plugging, pimping / whatever. You got a Kickstarter going on right now, so why don't you tell people about that, and also tell people how they can find you.
Yeah, I mean, finding me is very easy. You go to Pornhub and you type in. No, I'm kidding. I'm not on there. I had that all taken down. But yeah, I mean, just Facebook. So Cutthroat Comics is the publishing company that I own. So I've been building not only myself but my brand at the same time, which is a whole other conversation. But yeah, Twitter, Cutthroat Comics, Instagram, Cutthroat_Comics, Snapchat is Cutthroat Comics, Facebook is Cutthroat Comics. I mean, you guys are smart. You probably know how you found it before I even had it out of my mouth, probably. That's where you can find everything. As far as the Kickstarter goes, it started last Wednesday. We were fully funded in less than 48 hours, which was quite the achievement, considering this is my first one. And granted, I did set the goal low because I wanted to make sure it got funded so that we were at least able to get something out of it, and B, this is my first one, and I didn't want to like get all crazy and shoot for the stars with the first one, because
I'm going to roll in all of the monies this time. That's what's the goal.
I've seen people set their goals at, like $6,000-7,000, and it's like, bro, you're not going to get that on your first one. Not saying it's never happened, but I don't see that happening. But yeah, so this is Turkey Sharks #1.
So what what's it called?
Turkey Sharks #1.
Turkey Sharks.
Issue #1. This is this is my team book. So it's all of my characters from Ginger Avenger, Pedo Man and Kid Friendly, and Stingray. They're all together in this book. This is kind of like my end game, but I have written it in a way that if you've not read the other stuff, you can jump on board and understand what's going on. It's really funny. It's got some heart. And like I said in this conversation, I think I found a way to give my characters voices that everybody can connect with in this one story. So we've got some really awesome variants. We have a Breakfast Club spoof cover that's a Kickstarter exclusive. You can only get it on Kickstarter. Brian Silverbacks, who has worked for Scout, Image, Source Point Press, Aftershock, and several other companies, he did a cover for it. You can find his cover on there. And then Chris Madd, who works for Source Point Press. He's done No Heroin. I think he did some Dead End Kids. So if you're familiar with those comics, he also did a cover. And his cover is Basic Bitch and Zebo, the Drunk Homeless Robot, which this is their first appearance. So they're on the cover of the first appearance of this variant. So there's also an A cover as well. Cristiano Reyna, I want to give him a shout out. He's the main artist that I've used for all these books, and he is super talented and awesome to work with. And none of this would be possible without him for sure. But check out the book. It's a fun, action-packed superhero comedy with heart and a super squirrel. That's what I've been telling people.
Superhero comedy, heart, and a super squirrel should be your tagline.
It should.
No, you really should be. You should write that down now, because that's actually good stuff.
I've said it a few times. My grandmother is in this book. She passed away a few years ago, and she popped up in Ginger Avenger 2. I brought her into this one to be the voice of reason for Ginger Avenger in this series. And then the squirrel is actually based off a real squirrel that my grandfather had when I was a kid. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, you should definitely go check it out. I personally think he set his goal a little low for a Kickstarter, but that's another conversation for another time when you come back. I'm assuming you're going to want to come back here somewhere down the road.
Yeah, maybe like 6 years from now.
6 years from now, when you're older and wiser. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's right. That said, ladies and gentlemen, so I kind of sorry. I'm gonna go with a couple announcements, and then Josh will stay right here. We'll talk a little bit after, just for some things I need from you. But a couple things. I am open for sponsorships. So anyone that's doing a Kickstarter, anyone that's doing indie books, anyone that's doing video games. I interview streamers on here as well. If you guys want to come out here and do promos and giveaways, I got my first sponsor today for September. I'm hoping to get a few more before the month is up. Definitely contact me. My email is, I'm going to do this right here for everybody to watch and see. Do that. Definitely do that. Beyond that, if you guys have enjoyed what you've watched or listened to on my Twitch, hit the like and follow button on my Twitch. My YouTube channel is Joshua Pantellaresco. Hit the like and subscribe there if you haven't done so already. My book, Alice Zero, is nominated for the Elgin Award this year from the Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association. The sequel, Alice 1, comes out November 1st. I got some cool things coming up in the next few days. Definitely stay tuned to here and also my webpage for more information. Beyond all that, guys, I will be back, I believe, tomorrow. I'm going to make sure before I actually jump the shark. I think it's tomorrow. But yes, it is tomorrow. I'm going to bring back an old buddy, Tim Niederreiter's coming back. Oh, wait, wrong day. Violet Mayer is my guest tomorrow. My schedule just goes all over here. But Violet Mayer will join us for the very first time. It's going to be a really cool experience, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. To the rest of you guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark and continue making beautiful things wherever you are. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.